Hello, and welcome to Ben and Matt Watch The Booth at the End.
Brought to you by the Sci-fi Christian.com.
Well, Ben, episode 2. It is called...
I don't know the title. Do you know the title?
I did know, and I forgot to write it down. Last week was Start and See What Happens. I think this one is something else.
Start and See What Happens.
Again.
Part 2. No, I'm sure that they had a little bit more creativity with the title than that, but
maybe
we did
Begins.
Some Begins. I don't know. Great episode.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, so what do you think week 2, Matt?
Well, I loved it even more.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched it last night and then again this morning. It
just keeps getting better.
Yeah, I mean, it's a satisfying show.
So I know we're going to get into like all the characters and what's going on,
Yeah.
but I wanted to give you my favorite moment in the episode.
Okay.
Favorite moment, Mrs. Tyler's conversation. I forget which one it was, but where she's like, just thinking, how can I kill all those people? And you're looking at her and she's like totally going to back down.
Yeah.
And then she goes, but then I thought, who am I not to kill them?
Yeah.
It's like, whoa!
I know.
Mrs. Tyler is so sweet.
I know, I wrote that down too. She said, who am I to kill these people? But, and also, did you notice in the conversation where she talked about getting to the number that the man...
Yeah, so he's giving her a specific number.
So she's just playing it safe. She's blowing up a bomb in the whole place, just hoping to get to that number.
Maybe it's a big number.
You know, speaking of his name, I found out through research that we were calling him the Man or the Man in Black last week. It is officially the Man.
The Man. I'm glad he doesn't have a real name.
Me also.
Well, maybe he does, but I'm glad we don't know it. Better it's just the Man.
Let's see. I'll tell you my favorite moment as we get going into the show. But before we go forward, Ben, this show is amazing to me. I don't know why, but for some reason, you know, all the Sci-Fi Christian listeners know I'm a huge Lost fan.
Yeah.
And I've never recommended a show as much as The Booth at the End since Lost, I don't think. Did that make sense?
I think so.
I've been recommending it to people. I recommended it to my roommate.
Yep.
I recommended it to my coworker and made her watch it on the lunch break today.
Yeah.
And then after she watched it, she was saying, oh, I know some friends that would like this.
Yeah.
It's just a show that is amazing.
It's going to go viral, and it deserves to.
Yeah, big time.
Definitely.
So, as I was rewatching episode 1 then with my coworker today on lunch break, I noticed 2 things we didn't talk about last week.
All right, let's hear them.
Number 1, when Melody first came in and she talked about how she met the man, or how she heard about the man, it was through a random string of people. But when the man asked, you know, what happened to that guy who he had helped once, you know what he said? Or know what Melody said?
He committed suicide.
Yeah, he killed himself.
Yeah.
Which I think is a little bit of a hint at what some of our characters might be experiencing. Guilt over what they've done to get what they want.
They might get what they want, but it might not turn out to be exactly what they want.
Exactly. And second thing I noticed that we didn't talk about last week, Sister Carmel, when she first sat down, right before she actually asked him, are you the devil?
Yeah.
She looked at him, and they took time in the scene to show her tucking her cross away before they started their conversation.
Interesting. Do you think he's the devil?
I think that he might represent he might be a representative. He might be the middleman.
It's very true, and they use that language. One other thing for the first episode that I also don't think we mentioned. Did you catch the pastrami sandwich line?
I did. That was kind of their code word to say, I know who you are.
Yeah, that took me a couple of views through to pick up on quite what was going on there, but so he's got some code, and we found out this week.
So how do they find out the code? I mean, there's a
somebody tells them.
Yeah.
And, you know, they tell them, go tell this guy the pastrami sandwich is good here.
Yeah.
But we found out this week that the diner isn't in on it. He's just kind of using it, or at least the employees of the diner aren't.
Definitely not in on it, and definitely wondering, what are you doing here? And we met Doris. She actually had 2 of her own scenes, and she seems to kind of dig the man. Do you get that feeling?
A little bit.
She's kind of into him. She stopped and said at some point that she thinks it's great that he cares about people so much, cares about what people say, because he's always taking notes.
Yeah.
And she predicted or guessed that maybe he was a reporter or a therapist or one third thing, which I don't remember.
He does seem a lot like a therapist.
Or a writer.
Oh.
Yeah, so he could be anything, because he is always taking notes.
I read one comment somewhere today, actually I think it might have been somebody put it up on our YouTube link from last week, that said, suggested maybe he's an alien.
Perhaps.
Yeah.
Speaking of our YouTube comment, we had a comment from the creator of The Booth at the End.
Pretty cool.
This is great.
Christopher Kubasik, I think is his name.
So, Christopher, we would love to have you on the Sci-Fi Christian. If you want to come on and talk about the show, call us at
612-4121-SFC.
or you can email us at
feedback@thescifichristian.com.
Yeah, that would be an awesome episode to
Totally.
talk all about the booth at the end. We could do it now to kind of hype up the show, or we could do it at the end to talk about where we went in the season.
Totally.
So that would be great.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do a show on the podcast about this.
Absolutely.
Once everything's done, because it's like totally up our alley.
Completely.
Tons of themes to seize on and kind of analyze, and I love the moral dilemmas, and that's what makes the show so great. So.
Absolutely. So should we get into the second episode?
Yeah.
Well,
run through some characters for
Well,
us.
we met 2 new characters from since last week. Doris, who we talked about, the waitress, and we also met Simon, who had a quick scene where he tried to make a counter offer.
That didn't go so well.
It did not go so well. I guess it turns out he came to the man maybe months ago, maybe 3 months or something, and his deal was, if you become a father, you will. He's something about his art. He wants to recognize the beauty in his own art, I think.
Right. Now, Sister Carmel needs to become pregnant.
I
so
know.
again, we have one of these 2 things that may or may not line up later on in the season.
Exactly. This interconnectedness. Well, let's just talk about the interconnectedness. And when we saw James and Willem this week, James is picking up on the fact that somebody is watching over the girl.
Yeah.
And Willem is asking, do I need to get a weapon?
Right.
So, what do you think's going to happen here?
I don't know. I mean, it could just be all this sort of sadistic social experiment on his part where he's lining different people up to see what happens and playing them against each other and seeing who comes out on top.
You know, before we go past Sister Carmel, you know, her this week, I mean, you already mentioned it, but this is big. This was one of the gasp out loud moments of the show when he told the nun that her deal was she had to become pregnant. She had to become pregnant. And what did you think when you heard that?
You know, it wasn't so much a gasp out loud one because I'm just so used to him having just these completely bizarre off the wall things for everybody at this point.
I know, but it's so specific. Specifically not good for her. Like, if he had told one of the other girls that, it might have been, you know, maybe not great, but not the end of the world. But this will literally ruin, maybe change her life. Little ruin is a strong word.
But he's basically telling her, in order to hear from God again, you have to leave your order. Which is really interesting when you think about it.
Well, no, not exactly, because last week he really stressed, I'm not here to help you, I just give you the jobs. But this week he actually gave Sister Carmel a suggestion. He said, you could lie. You could get pregnant, get rid of the baby, go back to your order, no one has to know.
Interesting.
That's a little helpful, and it is not good advice, really, for her to lie to everybody in her life. So, what do you think about that?
I don't think he's actually giving advice, though. I think what he's doing, and this is part of what makes his character so fascinating, is he wants everybody to see all of their available options. He's not telling her, do this, or you should do this, or this is a good idea. He's saying, you have options, and you need to see what all of them are, and then make your choice.
Another interesting thing is this visit that we saw at the beginning with Sister Carmel. This was definitely not their first visit together, because we saw that visit last week, and he didn't tell her task until this week.
Interesting.
And in the past, with Jenny, with Melody, he immediately goes to his notebook and tells them what they want. So their conversation must have, you know, ended in a sense of she didn't know if she wanted to commit to this.
Unless it's supposed to be the same conversation.
I didn't get that impression that it was the same one.
Neither did I.
I think that she came back.
I'll have to watch it again with that in mind and see if they line up or not.
Yeah, in fact, I don't think this is universal, but I've been trying to pay attention to when they show people actually walking in the diner and when they already are in a scene together. And Alan, the detective, he is always in scene by the time that we see him. And almost everybody else we see walk into the diner.
Now, we found out this week that Alan, speaking of him, was maybe not quite as specific with his request as he should have
This
been.
is going to be a main problem, I think, for our characters in the show. That they had to be very specific. And we saw last week with the man asking Jenny specifically about what she wanted in terms of beauty and melody, you know, and money, that the man writes down specifically what they asked for.
Yep.
And so, what do you think about that? Alan did not get what he wanted after all. Well, he got what he asked for.
He got what he asked for.
But he did not get what he really wanted.
I think it goes again to the man is about, you have to be specific, and then he's not, it almost feels like he's not even trying to manipulate anything. He's just laying out options. Yeah. He's giving them information. But yet he comes across as really, really evil in a lot of ways.
Sometimes he does.
Sometimes. Not all the time.
No, he doesn't. In this week, we actually saw the first, I would say, definite supernatural element. that immediately after Alan,
Oh, yeah.
as soon as
Answer
Alan,
your phone.
Yep, as soon as he explained that he had completed the task, and he said, "What next?" The man says, "Answer your phone." A second later, the phone rings, and the call is about finding the money.
Yeah.
So there is something going on here. It's not just a really smart guy who has a lot of connections. There's something beyond happening.
Absolutely.
So
that's fascinating.
Yeah.
With Jenny, we saw her taking steps towards her robbery where she has a gun.
Jenny's got a gun. Isn't that a song?
Maybe. I don't think so.
Okay.
And what was interesting here is he said, "Are you going to load it?" And she decided, "Yes, I am going to load it."
Yeah, and he said, if you load it, somebody could get shot. If you don't load it, nobody could get shot. What is she thinking?
I don't know.
What's the plus to her loading the gun?
Well,
she
according
said,
to her, it feels more real.
Yeah, this is going to be bad for her.
Yeah. Who else do we have to talk about?
Well, we talked about Jenny.
Molly.
Jenny's going to rob the money.
Yeah.
Melody is the one that's with the shut-in, and she needs money. Do you think that the money that Jenny steals is going to be going to Melody?
That seems to be the logical connection.
That seems to be. So what do you think about the shut-in? Now, this is a case where this does not seem to be bad.
No, it's actually a really good thing.
You're helping somebody overcome their fear of agoraphobia.
Yeah, and that makes me think that his motives are far more complex than just wanting to do evil and wanting to cause chaos. I'm not. I honestly have no idea at this point what his motives are.
And we saw two signs, one with Melody and one with Willem, of start and see what happens, the title from last week.
Yeah.
Melody started, and she reached out to Ron, I think is the shut-in's name. Willem has been protecting the girl, and both of them have seen signs that things are heading in the right direction. Melody's family came into some money after somebody died, and she actually asked the man, let me see here, did his friend die because of what I'm doing? And then the man just says, I don't know. So,
and I believe him on that.
Yeah. And
I think he's telling the truth on everything he says, honestly. I don't think the man lies.
Let's go towards the end of the show.
Okay.
We might still talk more, but get to Willem. Willem is talking about how he met the centerfold that he wants to be with.
Yeah.
He ran into her in some random line, and he said, "This is it. You said I would have a sign that I'm, once I'm doing something in relation to this task, I'm going to start seeing that it's working." He met her, and then they have a very interesting conversation. Do you remember the very end scene of the show?
No, refresh my memory.
So Willem is saying, "You're giving me this proof," and he said, "I'm not doing anything." And then he actually said, "I control less than you think."
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
I do.
And then all of a sudden Willem kind of thinks this is funny and says, "So you're just the middleman, the man in the middle." And then he asks the question that ends the show, "Who's on the other side of you?"
I think that is a very good question, Willem.
I think it is also. And the man, his response is just a smile. And then we get to the end of the show.
Sister Carmel had the good question last week. Are you the devil? Willem wins the good question award for this week, I suppose.
So
let me make a prediction here for the show. We talked about the possibility of Mrs. Tyler blowing up the diner last time. I think that's where her story is going to end. She doesn't seem to be connected to anything else. Okay. She's going to blow up the diner.
She is going to... Is it Andy's diner? So she is going to blow... Wait, you're talking about the diner he's in?
Yes.
So the whole show is going to end with Mrs. Tyler blowing up the man's diner.
But he will escape because of his foreknowledge.
Oh my gosh.
That's my prediction for how the show ends in episode 5, and it would be pretty interesting to see how we get to that point. But I could be completely wrong because the show is going to be one of those shows that's really lots of unexpected turns. You never quite know where it's going. Good stuff. Oh, and Christopher answered one of our questions about how long the show's going to be.
Yes, he did. Watch that, everybody.
5 episodes.
And it's going to end, I think he said the last day is August 6th. Correct?
August 8th.
August 8th, okay.
So 3 weeks more to go. So, it's one of those things where it's definitely going to leave us wanting more, I think. But it's...
hopefully there will be more.
Hopefully there will be. But I think that what we're going to get this season is going to be pretty incredible.
Let's quickly talk about interconnectedness before we end.
Okay.
We have Sister Carmel needs to get pregnant. Simon needs to become a father. Are these two going to become a couple?
Yes.
We have...
Alan and James, we know are connected.
No, not Alan. Willem.
Or Willem and James.
Yes.
We know are connected.
So, this is my prediction here. We know they're connected. We know that James is aware of him. Willem is now kind of keeping his eyes open for who's going to be attacking. I think Willem is going to end up dead by the end of the season.
You think so?
I think And James is going to try to kill the girl. Willem's going to try to protect her. And Willem, I think, is becoming more of a good guy because James is really trying to do a lot of justifying on why this is okay. He's actually trained a little villainish, if you ask me.
I'm going to disagree with you then, and I'm going to predict that Willem will be the victorious one.
And James will die?
James will die.
So one of those two we're saying will be dead by the end of the season.
I think so.
Okay.
And I'm going to put my money on Willem.
Doris, will she get a date with the man before this season ends?
No, but she might bring him a pastrami sandwich.
Do you think she's going to become important, or are they really just these small...
She's going to become important.
In what way?
I don't know.
She'll get blown up by Mrs. Tyler.
Yep.
And then that will be sad for us, the audience, who are starting to like her.
Yes.
Oh man, Ben, this show is awesome.
It totally is. Can't wait till next week, Matt.
I did a quick count. I believe this was made up of 13 webisodes, so if you're keeping count at home, that brings our total to...
I don't know. I wasn't keeping count at home.
24, I think 24 mini webisodes.
And that sounds about right if we're going to get to 5 episodes this season.
Yeah, so I think that's all from here. There were some great quotes in this one. This was it brought us to the next level.
Can't wait for next week.
I can't wait. I'm Matt Anderson.
I'm Bendy Bono.
And we're the Sci-Fi Christians, signing off.